Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Welcome to the show at Rise Up Show with me, your host, the Queen Bee, Dani. How are you feeling? As we chat this morning to the devilishly handsome, the fabulously wonderful, the incredibly knowledgeable Mr. Fidel Hill, the modern man. Good morning. Jodie Soul, good morning. Fabna Reddy, good morning. Elise Woodbine, good morning. The devilishly handsome Ian Dixon, good morning, sir.
Shut up, for f***'s sake. Jesus.
The fantastic Lizzie Jackson Barrett, good morning. Josephine Sandra, everybody, good morning. Good morning, squad. How are you? Welcome to the show at Rise Up Show with me, your host, Dani Wallace. I hope you're well. I put some face on this morning, you lot. I thought, oh, do you know what? I'm sick of looking at my pale and pasty face this week. I've been not putting my makeup on, not for a lack of self-care, just that, well, I just couldn't really be asked. So I hope you're all good. I'm feeling fly this morning. I made some decisions. I've got some stuff to tell you today. Hang on. I'm stuck. I'm better now. I've got some stuff to tell you this morning before we kick off. First of all, there are still a couple of places left on the Summer Swarm strategy sessions. That's a lot of S's. Beautiful alliteration for this time on a Thursday morning. If you do want a place on them, you will need to be quick before we close the doors and put in all of our food orders. So as a part of the Summer Swarm strategy sessions, I'm going to be on tour around the UK, from Glasgow to London and everywhere in between, facilitating a number of strategy days, getting you ready for the second part of the year and on into 2022. Looking at your product suites, looking at your mindset, looking at everything that's going on in life and business, and really creating a plan. I am on with the incredible Jojo Smith from Creative Sass. I'm going to be giving her a call today, finalizing swag, because you know I love a little bit of swag. So I'll be sorting out gifts today for everybody who's coming along. Super excited. For those of you that have jumped in already, there have been loads of you. Glasgow is almost sold out. London is almost sold out. Manchester is almost sold out. Still plenty of spaces left in Birmingham and indeed Glastonbury. If you do want to jump along to that, if you want to know more information, put Swarm in the comments and I will hook you up. I will drop you a little voice note and let you know what's popping with that. So I have been having a little think. I've got my brew out this morning. Our guest this morning is incredible, by the way. Do stay for our amazing interview this morning with the gorgeous Dani Downey, who's been a friend of mine and the show's an IATQB now for ages. So it's lovely to have her in. We're going to be talking about, on the top end, trigger warning. We are going to be talking about domestic abuse and the survival of, and also the great things that can happen when you have come through those situations as well. So just a trigger warning on the top of today's show, we will be talking about domestic abuse. As you know, that's where a lot of my story began, a lot of where my story starts, and a lot of where my onward journey is taking us, specifically within the Fly Anyway Foundation. But I've been having a little think. So we were talking yesterday to Jill Kirkham. If you did catch the show yesterday, it was a belter of a show. We went quantum yesterday. We were talking about all things like inherently woo, but it was a really interesting conversation talking about the particular time of month this is right now. So today is a new moon. So later on tonight, I've got my moonology cards. I've got to light my candles and set my intentions for this new moon cycle. I would love to know in the comments what your new moon rituals are, if indeed you have any. It's just a really great way to be setting intentions for yourself and just to keep checking in with your own goal setting, your own goal attainment. Woo or no. But apparently the energy right now is because of a series of things. There's like an eclipse, there's something else going on. But I was saying yesterday, I felt like I'd lost my mojo a little bit in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Now, often that happens when you've done something huge. And the launch that we did for Be Heard and Be Inspired was huge. It was a big one. And I wanted to spend a little bit of time celebrating with my family and really putting like a flag in the floor with regards to what a milestone that particular launch was, but this particular point in IATQB was. But around that, what I would call my outward motion, what I would call my sort of communication and contact with you outside of the realms of the show has dwindled. It's like I've got scared of my own visibility. It's like things got really big and then I went, oh shit the bed. So yeah, it's so interesting how that felt. And I was sat last couple of days being a bit lost, Louisa. Yeah, I feel you. I'm so glad we get to have a conversation today. Feel a little bit lost, like again, like a bit like John Travolta in Mia Wallace's house, where he goes, like, I just felt a little bit like that. Great, exciting things that we're looking forward to. We've got the Summer Swarm, of course. We've got Be Inspired in September. So definitely pivotal things to look forward to. But I was like, but what now? What do we do now? And I was looking to the show. And one of the things about the show, Rise Up Show, I love the consistency of it, and I love showing up every day, Monday to Friday for you all. It makes my heart happy. But there's been something a little bit missing, and I feel like this has been bubbling underneath for a little bit. And I talk to you about diversity all the time, and I talk to you, about how we're really striving to make the show more diverse in terms of topic, in terms of inclusion, and it's been really sort of taken out of my hands for a little bit. In that, I've just been trying to paddle along doing all of the things and really drop that diversity ball for the show Rise Up Show. And doesn't sit within my values. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And I think that's where I lost a little bit of mojo. So I'm going to put something to you all, and I want to know what you think. I feel like we're going to have, I'm not stopping the show, by the way, don't worry. But I feel like we're going to have a little bit of a refresh for the show at Rise Up Show. So I spoke to the team last night about this. Yeah, you can't have sushi for your breakfast. That's for your lunch. Oh, she's so bougie, is Ivy. How bougie is she? I got her some whoopsie sushi from the Tesco's this morning, dropping Poppy off. Don't think that we're that posh. I don't just have sushi in. It's whoopsie. It's on the whoopsies. We're on the knockdown. But she loves sushi. She's just come in with the sushi. She's butt naked. Of course she is. She's not coming on camera. Can I have some sushi for breakfast? No, she's so bougie. So I'm thinking, as a way to inject some new life into the show, to lift things up a little bit, we're going to put the show through a little bit of a rebrand. So we've got a production researcher doing some work right now on our lineup, on our programming, on our topics and all of that sort of stuff. And we're going to get Wallace to give us a little bit of a refresh. We're going to get a new title sequence, and we're going to have a break. We're going to have a 2-week break from the show at Rise Up Show. It makes me feel a bit funny. It makes me feel a bit scared. It makes me feel like if I stop doing it, what will I do? And actually, when's Ivy hosted the show? She's not far away, Amy Blaney, honestly. I feel like it's one of those times where I don't want the show to get monotonous for everybody involved. I don't want the show to get monotonous for you guys. I don't want the show to get monotonous for me. And I really want to make sure that I'm really checking in and keeping things fresh. So what do you guys think? If we have a 2-week break from the show, will you come back? Like, I am so scared. I am so scared of stopping, because it has been over a year now. It has been every single week without fail, every single Monday to Friday without fail. We've been going live, we've been interviewing, we've been sharing some phenomenal, incredible things. I'm not saying that the show's been bad. I'm just saying it feels like it needs a little bit of an Etch-a-Sketch. I feel like we need to shake things up a little bit. So let me know in the comments how you feel about that. One of the weeks that we will not be doing the show will be during the Summer Swarm. We will be posting highlights from previous shows during that week in the run-up. And then as we sort of relaunch the show again, with some really exciting guests and really exciting conversations and topics. Bless you. Oh, deep down, we know that we'll all be back. A 2-week break sounds like a bit of extra nap time that you deserve. I feel it. I feel it, you lot. I will absolutely come back. I think the show will return with a wonderful new end. And that's what I feel like. So there will be stuff that's going on here during that 2-week break from the live show. So we will be revisiting fantastic other like older shows, or we might even chop in some of the interviews from the big festoon this time last year, but then we will be back with aplomb. So I will do a more formal post both in the Hive and out on here on the Queen Bee Dani page, just to let you know that that's what's going on. And also we'll be gearing up for our new cohort of Be Inspired to become co-hosts or standing coaches, just as, for example, Louisa Herridge watching along, Jojo Smith, Kate Davis, Owen and Naomi Ella, all of those incredible alumni from Be Inspired often jump in when I'm not able to. We will have a whole new additional raft of phenomenal co-hosts. So yeah, really, really exciting and shit scary. So I just thought I would put that out there to you all, see what you guys thought. Once I've said it, I can't take it back, because being that I'm like recovering workaholic that I am, I'm going to feel really guilty for those 2 weeks. So you're not allowed to like you've got to call me out if I say I'm feeling guilty, or if I get like this about it. You've got to call me out on my bullshit. Is that an agreement? Is that an agreement, B fans? I hope so. Right, I've told you now. That's the big thing that I wanted to tell you this morning. But now, without further ado, I've been so excited to speak to this wonderful human being. Having followed her journey from the outside and having been connected with her in social media for a couple of years now, Dani, right? Something like that. We've been connected for a couple of years on Facebook in the online space. And I'm just such a huge fan of her energy and a huge fan of her light, a huge fan of her no bullshit approach to life. Hugely inspirational woman. Please welcome to the show the glorious Danielle Downey. Good morning.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. That's really kind. I've got like a bit of fandom with you. I've been thinking like, I'm on the show with Dani. Look.
Yeah, we've had like loads of conversations and stuff. We've spoken Messenger before, and obviously like I follow your journey really closely, and I know the same for you with me and the things that I'm getting up to. It's brilliant to get you in here for a cuddle.
Thank you. I had to kind of get over myself when I filled in the form to come on. The imposter syndrome bullshit got massively in the way, and I scrolled on and went, oh my God, but what if Dani says no? Who the fuck am I? Excuse my language.
If I'm ever going to say no to you.
It just shows, doesn't it, how much we get in our own way. But what if Dani Wallace says no? You're just like you're not good enough. And I was like, oh my God, please let us say yes.
And I'm like, oh my fucking God, Dani's coming on. Yes, I'm like made up.
It's bizarre, the bullshit stories that we still sometimes sort of follow on our tails. Crazy.
100%. And also, it's I always find it really weird, Dan, when people say that, like, oh, what if Dani Wallace says no? Like, Dani Wallace is made up that people actually want to be on her show. Like, that's where Dani Wallace is at right now. sat in a very untidy bedroom still, which I disclosed back.
I think you just about win that one with mine, although mine is covered in cracks with no carpet and stuff.
We're still on a mattress on the floor. We're still waiting for Benson's for beds to send our beds. All of us, like me, Wallace and the kids, we're all sleeping on the floor on mattresses, still in our posh house. It's all fur coat and no knickers, Dani. It's all
a bit like me. I just said to Dani, I've got a plant behind me to kind of hide the carnage because I don't look very professional. And my laptop is stacked on 3 shoeboxes.
See, this is it. And there is no such thing as perfection, you guys. This is how we show up together. Yeah. Dani, thank you for coming on the show. Your story is incredible. Tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and why you're on the show today.
What's your name and where you come from?
What's your name and where did you come from?
So I've got 6 kids. I used to say I'm a survivor of sexual violence, and that was always kind of my first rhetoric. I feel like I've pushed that backwards now. I don't start sort of with that. I've got 6 kids. I'm currently renovating a shit tip of a house. I've got used to cement dust in my hair, and my feet look like a hobbit because there's so much dirt ingrained. My daughter has just been diagnosed with anorexia in the last 6 weeks. Yep. So life has taken us off on a completely different trajectory. But outside of the shit that the universe sometimes sort of throws at us, I'm a women's empowerment coach. I've got background I'm a qualified domestic abuse advocate. I worked for Women's Aid for a long time. So I've always been very with women. I'm a qualified midwife, so I've always been the one banging the drum for natural birth. Always done stuff to empower other women, sometimes to the detriment of myself. Ignored my own trauma for probably 40 years.
As many of us do.
Absolutely. Was a qualified, busy as my work is my drugs and alcohol. Never sat my ass down. Again, to my own detriment. I've still got a bit of, stuff left over physically from that. But I choose now when I work, and I recognise when I'm knackered. And I'm a survivor of sexual violence as a child, and I've written a book, a bestseller, knocked Oprah Winfrey off the top spot, is my claim to fame.
Cheeky. So, I mean, it's interesting the way that we, anybody who has survived anything, the way that we identify ourselves when we first sort of step into an arena. I remember when I first started, particularly in the self-development and personal development space, that I did lead on the front foot with survivor of domestic abuse, etc., survivor of homelessness and domestic abuse. And even now, I validate everything that we do, everything that IATQB does, by actually telling everybody that I started from nothing. It does matter after a fashion, but actually, I'm just a really good public speaking coach who happens to like showing up on social media, like in the grand scheme of things. And I think that the more that we own our expertise, actually, yes, the rest is just connective tissue. The rest is the why.
Absolutely.
You don't necessarily have to go in on the front foot and hit people in the stomach with the thing.
I completely agree. And I spent a long time kind of sort of working out where my path was. What was I going to do with this? Oh, bless you. What was I going to do with, with this stuff that had happened to me? And I find that the universe now sort of has taken me down the strangest paths. And I feel like there's probably a bit of work to do now with helping other parents whose kids are suffering from eating disorders, because we've been really blessed. Our daughter was diagnosed I picked it up after 2.5 weeks of her restricting. So actually the brain damage isn't that bad. It's still been horrendous, absolutely awful. So I feel like perhaps the universe is nagging me to kind of actually, perhaps you need to look at this as well, as opposed to just focusing on domestic abuse and sexual violence. There's so many people out there that just, that need help and support. So I'm doing my trauma-informed coaching course at the minute. I start my hypnotherapy in August, because hypnotherapy for Grace has been amazing. Right. So so the universe has kind of taken me down a route.
And it tends to, whether the more, again, this has been a real theme this week, the more awake we become. And it's funny, Natasha Bray and her Story Mind Mastermind, and they had their book out called When Women Heal. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I've got it. It's amazing, isn't it?
Brilliant. And the stories and the people that are on that lineup are just phenomenal. But actually, that real concept of when anybody heals, when you heal, actually, you are then in possession of a superpower that you can then go and assist other people with. If you want, and this is a calling, not everybody wants to do that when they've overcome something, but often we find survivors serve. And as I said to you backstage, Dani, having been very, very close to a number of people with disordered eating, be it bulimia, anorexia nervosa, a mix of the two, binge eating, whatever it is, it can take hold pretty quick and get its claws in. And you've seen that viscerally, and the support that's out there for parents. How do you even know where to start bloody looking?
I didn't. And I think one of the things that served us really well is that because when I started to get flashbacks about my sexual violence as a child, when I was about 40, and then I wrote about it in a book. And because I've always been very, very big that we don't do guilt and shame in our house, nothing is that isn't my fault. That is not mine to own. But I've told my story and have empowered loads of people with it. What people have come to me and said, actually, thank you for sharing your story, because in doing that, you've empowered me to actually own mine, even if it's only to the mirror. So I was always of the ilk that we will not, this is not your fault. This is not your guilt. This is just shit that's happened and it's an illness. So actually one of the best things I did was I wrote on social media in week 2 of when I'd noticed it, I'm drowning. I've gone to a GP. She's useless. We've done a CAMS referral, the wait list 3 months. Somebody pick me up and help me because I'm clueless. And actually, 200 people reached out. Friends of mine in the industry who I didn't know were in the eating disorder industry helped. Friends of mine whose kids were also anorexic, who actually have kept it very quiet, kind of lifted me up. And had I not had that, I would have been able to start the work with Grace or straight away that day, because we kind of went, right, you bastard, you're getting it.
Right now, absolutely.
Right,
You don't get to live here. Yeah.
No, this ain't your house, do one. No squatters here. And actually, that's the best thing that we did. And that has really, really helped her recovery in 6 weeks. I mean, we're nowhere near out the woods. She still doesn't want to eat. She still believes she's fat, and I've seen more meat on a butcher's pencil, bless her. But we're making headway. And she wants to heal now. She wants to sing and play guitar and go to music college. And we keep saying to her, you can't play guitar if you're dead, love. It doesn't work. It's incompatible. So, and we do joke. I've got a bit of an inappropriate sense of humour. So, if for anybody who thinks that I'm taking it lightly, it's more out of terror. It's my coping mechanism. That my kind of my dismissal is my terror. It's my deal.
I hear you. There's this American comedian that my girls have got. It's completely inappropriate, by the way. Don't judge my parenting on the fact that my girls introduced me to this highly inappropriate comedian. This guy called Bo Burnham, and he sings a song called "Sad." Right? He writes this song. The song is called "Sad," and what he does is he sings along with the piano, and he just says things that are sad, like really inappropriate things that I'm not going to repeat on here because it's that inappropriate. But the crux of the song is that how do we cope with sadness? And actually it's because our empathy bums us out, so we laugh. And often when things are sad, he's like, look at you all laughing. How can you all be laughing at these sad things? That's it. Actually, that's what we've got to do. We've got to laugh. And I think there's a lot to be said and especially in Britain, I think, especially being from the UK, often dark humor gets us through. I remember Dad being in intensive care and it being awful, like the most horrific time ever, and us finding the most ridiculous things funny as an outlet.
We scattered my nan's ashes and we're pissing ourselves as the wind blew her off down the cemetery into some other woman's hair. I mean, crying my eyes out, but laughing my head off at the irony of that. It's so tragic. And and we Grace and I have written a song that says, you can't play guitar from a hospital bed. You can't play guitar if you're already dead. And when I sing that to her. I mean, it's not. I'm not going on. I'm not going on talent show. But
you're not ready to be Bo Burnham just yet.
No, but we're work in progress. I'll live with it. And I think it's whatever you do at the time that helps you through. Gets you through the tough times. Whether that's domestic abuse, divorce, homelessness. You do whatever you reach into whatever it is you need to, don't you?
And we don't give enough credit, I think, sometimes to the way that humor can get us through those things, and how actually we talk about raising vibrations and what have you. Actually, it's an instant way of you feel better after a good laugh just as much as you do after a good cry, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what it's endorphins, isn't it? And I think that's taught her huge amounts as well, that whilst I've been sobbing my eyes out, and I'm able to cry now after sort of 45 years of not crying. I now leak like the proverbial leaking thing. Oh look, I'm leaking again, and the slightest thing will set me off at the minute. So, and I'm embracing that. I think part of healing is being able to actually. I now feel I was emotionally dead in that state of complete hypoarousal for so many years, having been hypervigilant, and then sort of went through that shit. Actually, life is really tough, and all that trauma's finally hit me like a tsunami. Right. And then I had 3 months when I just collapsed into a snotty heap, became agoraphobic, contemplated suicide, and thought, actually, this isn't really living.
Yeah, but this is often what happens when you've experienced trauma. Particularly when you've experienced trauma as a child, actually our brains do things to protect us. And sometimes that's things like deletion. Sometimes that's things like that emotional padding that is like a muting of feeling, of emotion. Sometimes as adults that leaks into things like addiction. You were saying about busyness being your crack, I guess.
It was.
But for many people who experience this, that the padding, the way that we mute these things are maybe not always as healthy as they could be. And we're not, if we look at particularly our generation, I was talking to a group about this the other day, particularly between sort of age 30 and 55. I think there's this sort of 25-year gap of where as children we weren't maybe necessarily even encouraged to talk about our emotions, especially in the north. I don't know if you got this, but very much like I would cry and I remember my grandma going, come on, get over it, come on now, that's enough. And I'm like and when you realize that actually if you feel your feelings, you get through them and you're much healthier on the other side of it.
For sure, my father, who was actually my perpetrator, fell into a fish pond. And again, trigger warning, and I'm so sorry for anybody who this, and you'll laugh, Dani, but my father fell into a fish pond after I wished him dead and he drowned. In our family, we actually celebrate May the 25th with a cake. Usually a fish pond cake or a picture of a fish pond, because for us it's great. When I've told that story on stage, people have gone, there's been like tumbleweed in the audience, so people kind of digest that and gone, wow. And I remember Grace coming back and saying to me, Mum, I told the English teacher today that Grandy had drowned in a fish pond and how we have a cake. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get a call from school. I'm such a shit parent. But actually, we deal with stuff in our own way. And once you're emotionally free to feel, that's cool.
And however, and it is very much, there is no right or wrong, as long as no one's doing any harm to anybody else, there's no right or wrong way to move through this sort of stuff. There's be it with humor or sadness, or I mean it's a case of not unpacking anyway, because we don't get to, and everything's transient. But so you came through, like you said, you've come through some significant obstacles throughout your life, starting of course with the abuse of yourself by your dad. How, between that time and kind of getting where you are now, what sort of things have you done to get you to a position where we can morbidly laugh? It's quite macabre, but like we can almost laugh at these things. And Pixie, this is how we know this community is amazing. I love that you feel you're able to celebrate. I don't agree with lying about how we feel about someone just because they're dead. I hear that.
And also family. A lot of the women that I work with now have such toxic relationships with family. Right. And actually, when you asked me that question, Dani, one of the things I did actually was remove myself from the toxicity that was some really carcinogenic, hideous family. Actually, the only family I have now are those I choose myself, who aren't blood, and my husband and my 6 kids. I have nobody else, which is of my choosing, and partly theirs as well, because it was so unhealthy. I didn't realize that my whole world was wrong, to be quite honest, until I was about 40. I started to put in some boundaries with my mum. Our relationship has been very, very strained. And when I started to put in boundaries, people then, as they do, they labelled me difficult. They said, actually, you're a pain in the ass. We don't want to be around you. And I went, fuck, I like boundaries. Good,
I don't want to be around you either. Nice one.
Exactly that. And I was really careful to say to my clients, for every reaction, there is an equal and opposite reaction. You put in a boundary, somebody's going to push back. And it depends, then you go through that pushy pull me. And for me, there was no going back on the boundaries once I'd learned them. It was my absolute no deal.
And it's very interesting that you say, particularly around family or friends that you've had for a long, long time as well. You talk about relationships, and there was a brilliant client of mine, Celine DeCosta, actually did her TEDx. She did a TEDx, and her TEDx was about longevity of connection, not necessarily being the be all and end all, and the fact that we place a lot of gravitas and weight on relationships that have been going on for a long time. So, but there is this train of thought that for every for every connection a season, and it's okay that if something is no longer serving you, you are well within your self-care rights, and you are the most important person in your world to say, this relationship isn't serving me. And you don't necessarily have to go around lopping people out of your life with a samurai sword, but you can. Don't actually do that. Like, keep everyone safe. Don't get imprisoned for anything by everyone. But you can stand back. You can like not answer the messages. You can not answer the phone calls. You can say to that person, do you know what? It doesn't make me feel good when I speak to you. So I don't think it's a good idea that we speak. And that's it's a tough thing to do. We always feel like we don't want to be that difficult person. Dani, what do you think about being the difficult person? Because it becomes enjoyable after a bit.
It does. And
like
I think
being the
what I had to ask myself, it's that thing between, is it a belief or is it a reality? Or is this just something somebody else has created? So when I was told by my family, actually, you're increasingly more difficult, all that meant actually was that if they didn't turn up for lunch and I called them out, that was then my difficulty. That was me being difficult. It was just me saying, actually, you're out of line. I've cooked lunch. You said you'd be here at 2 and it's now 5 and you're not here. That was okay. That was, that was a cool place to be. And that actually it wasn't about them particularly. It didn't mean I was a bad person. It doesn't mean they're bad people.
No.
Exactly the same as when I talk to my siblings. I've got 6 siblings about my father. Everybody has their own version of their truth. My truth is that I suffered abuse. Nobody came to rescue me. The people that should have kept me safe didn't. But actually, it doesn't make my siblings bad people. We just don't share the same truth, and therefore that relationship is incompatible. And it's not about them or us. Again, I think their version is probably quite different.
Yeah,
but I'm cool with that. I've made peace with it. I don't need to. It's not something that is about. It's not about vengefulness. It's just about what gives me peace, and also what's best for for my health. Yeah, and I'm okay.
100%. So this is again an interesting one, that when you do put those boundaries in and you do create that resistance, and everyone has their own version. There's your version of truth, their version of truth, then the truth itself. However we look at these things, but. When we start, how was it when you started to put that distance in? Because I know so many members of our community do have those toxic relationships that they're very close to, or they will have experienced some sort of trauma.
Yeah.
And how did you begin to put those boundaries in place?
It started by, in fact, it was a counsellor. I went for counselling about my sexual violence, and I gave myself 8 weeks for counselling, despite all the trauma. I was like, no, 8 weeks is all you've got, love. Sort your shit out, which is bonkers. And again, really trauma response, because I was trying to control it.
Trying to put it in a box. Yeah.
Right. So I've told you all my trauma, and right now, 3 weeks in, I've got another 5 weeks. What we're going to chat about, love? So we started talking about parents. And it was her actually who said, the relationship is really toxic in your family. And I was like, what? Really? So I wrote a letter. I wrote a very long letter to my mum saying, look, I really want us to have a balanced relationship. I really want you to love me. I want you just to be able to appreciate who I am, my successes, my kids. And I got back a letter that wasn't great, that made me feel fairly shit. But I still kept trying for about another 3 years.
Right.
And I think over time, it just became apparent that there wasn't going to be, she couldn't be what I wanted her to be.
Right.
And I couldn't be what I wanted her, what I needed.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. And I'm not going to lie that trying to put distance between people, it isn't difficult. But I don't believe in its entirety that you have to do it all out like I did.
Yeah.
It was the sort of the line got thinner and thinner and thinner, until actually it wasn't a place to be for either of us. And I wrote her a letter in about February this year and just said, I'm so connected to my mum. I'm very like her. She's very strong. She's very strong-willed. She's very difficult. The irony there is huge. But in a different life, I know that we've had a really lovely relationship, and I hold on to that. That we have a real deep soul connection, just not in this life. And I'm okay with that, because other people feel the gap. So it doesn't mean I'm not sad. It doesn't mean that if you've got a lovely mother, I'm sitting there going, you bitch, I hate you.
How dare you have
you have a lovely mother? I'll celebrate that with you. It's amazing because other people fill the gap for me. So I think we don't have to feel bitter. We don't have to feel twisted and let it eat us up like a hot coal, burning us. We can choose to just say, just not in this lifetime. That's okay.
It takes quite a bit to get to that point, though, where you are so again at ease with that, at peace, content with that.
It's been a damn lot of work, Dani. It's been bloody
well,
hard.
that's what I was going to ask you, because obviously that didn't get boshed out in the 8 weeks. Because that's what, as we were saying, one of the things that often as people who have experienced trauma in some way, shape or form, we try to control our outcomes because uncertainty is unsafety. So you got to the end of the 8 weeks, going through that particular point, like part of counselling. What then? What was that next? What was the next bit of healing for you? What was the next sort of plan of attack? Because did you get to the end and go, oh, I'm magically better now?
I thought I was. I really thought I was. I thought I'd sort of addressed so much crap in 8 weeks that I was then healed. What I realised is that actually busy still continued to be my drugs and alcohol. I'm the really boring cow who has never smoked a fag and I've never done a drug, because I was always the one that I'm not risk averse. I love risk, but I was always terrified of that risk. It was very bad for me. And I think part of that awareness now is that I know I've probably got a very addictive personality. So if I just started smoking one fag, I'd smoke 200 a day.
That's it.
Or been dead. So that was always, I was always quite self-aware.
It's one of the reasons I never gambled.
Yeah, exactly.
I would never gamble, and even now the only time I ever gamble is on the Grand National, and I back every horse. So I spread my bets and back a donkey, but I don't know how to play bandits. I don't know how to play poker. I don't know how to gamble. Purposefully didn't learn how, because I knew that given my relationship with alcohol and work and once upon a time drugs, that I just couldn't. That is not going to end well for anybody if I learn how to gamble.
Yeah, for sure, it's going to end in and I'm exactly the same. And I saw that really early on. I didn't realise the link to busy being my drugs and alcohol at the time.
Right.
But I had 6 children and I worked, and my husband was in the Navy, so I didn't know particularly that busy was my state. Because actually, while I was busy, I couldn't think about any of the carnage that actually, and I didn't really scratch the surface. It was like a splinter being removed. None of
eradicated all the bandwidth. Just eradicate bandwidth. If you've got any space, then you've got to think about shit.
Yeah, and I just didn't think. If something came up, like when my father, my son came to me one day and said, "Grandy tried to abuse me, Mum." And I went, holy shit. Oh my God, I thought it was only me. That then sparked off a police investigation. Suddenly, as the person, I used to go to children's services meetings as a professional. Suddenly there were all these meetings about me and my kids. We were open to children's services. All the stuff that I kind of was like, never, ever, ever let happen, happened. So we got through that. And I don't know. But again, I came out the other side. We moved on, we moved house. I dealt with the relationships as they sort of manifested and fell down, but just picked myself up. And I've come to hate the word resilience to some degree. Resilience did not serve me well. I'd packed myself into a box that said, I'm resilient. I will always get up. But actually, I didn't need to get up. There was a point in time where after my book came out, my family threatened to sue me. Right. And suddenly that was the crook that broke the camel's back. That was in 2017. My book came out. I was completely in love with it. I was so proud of what I'd written. It wasn't cathartic. I'd written it from the heart to give a message to people that it's not a woe story. It's not, oh my God, life's so shit. It doesn't matter wherever you've been, you can move through and move forward to thrive.
I think when you write something like that, you almost counsel yourself through it. Though, because you're an intelligent person. So if I look at my own battles with mental health, my own battles with trauma and all that, I'm a very intelligent person, and also I love psychology. So actually when I was writing my book and writing about my relationship with my dad, who thank God didn't touch me, but it was a very chaotic way to grow up with lots of alcohol and lots of like really misinformed behavior from all of the grown-ups who were supposed to be clever. Like I'm writing about this. And it wasn't cathartic. I wasn't trapped. I've got hay fever, and I didn't realize till like last week. And the whole house has been like puffy eyed, and I can't stop sneezing. But it wasn't writing for the sake of like needing to get all of that out, but there was certainly a degree of counseling myself through it in a different way than I ever did before. And I've been to CBT and talk therapy and all of this sort of stuff, and it never really kind of, like you, I got to the end of those things and thought, well, I've done it now, I've shared it all, like there we go.
Yeah.
Now what do I do now? Now I'm looking at it all, it's all there on the table. But writing really helped almost put it to bed, because it was no longer about me, it was about helping people who you can help, and
it puts it into the frontal cortex. It's the journaling, isn't it? The power of journalising, that's the wrong word. Journaling,
why not,
is huge. I've just invented a new word. That's massive when we look at what that does to the prefrontal cortex and our logic, and it helps us assimilate stuff. I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time. I wrote it just to share my story.
Right.
My family threatened to sue me, and literally in the space of a heartbeat, I went from being, actually I'm okay, I'm on the street walking down the road, to suddenly being in a heap, terrified of the world. But the universe I pulled my book off sale. I didn't put it back out there for another month. Suddenly pulled it off. Was terrified of a legal letter for libel being landed on my doorstep, despite having my book Liable read and having a huge report to say it was cool. My amygdala went into this. It was the straw, I think, that took my amygdala from being functioning just to being right, you bitch, sit on your ass and just don't move. In fact, it was from the January to the May I became a recluse. I stripped wallpaper from a 300-year-old house, the whole house. I listened to no music. Music for me is really important. And I just beed, if there's such a word. I just was. I just sat. I didn't need to talk to anybody. I barely spoke to my husband. He thought I was beyond broken, because I'd gone from being this terrier, this protector, to being this weepy. In fact, I didn't even cry for about 3 months. I was just quiet. And the quieter I got, the quieter my mind was. Just made me go, okay, what now? And then I made the decision, actually, this isn't living anymore. This is existing. And what was I going to do? I read a really fantastic book by a friend of mine, Lindsay Banks, called A Gentle Hug for the Soul. And in that, she talked me through grounding. And so I've always been a little bit woo. I've always sort of used stuff. I went out and I bought citrine crystals, and I've mine sat on Buddha.
Got my little citrine earrings on. I've got my bumblebee jasper over it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I got really into crystals, really into cinnamon oil on the soles of my feet. Stuck myself in this massive orange bauble every day. And I went to see a spiritual healer who wrapped me in copper and stuck things in my belly button and was probably laughing her head off at me. But I started to feel better. I started to feel calmer. I was able to listen to my body. I was able to take rest. And from then on, my path has been really different. I run a group called Speak Out Sisterhood for women who have been where I've been. And rather than trying to heal myself, now I'm able to be present for them. I've written other books. I've done work for the police. I don't feel any loss or any longing anymore. I feel whole. I never thought I did think I was broken. I'm not perfect, but bollocks to perfect.
Right. And there's this striving for perfection. We always feel like there's this like little bit of us missing, and actually there's nothing missing. You're there, you're stood there in your entirety, you are whole. And if there are things missing, you got to ask yourself, what is it that needs filling up then, as opposed to how can I mask the pain that I'm feeling? And you doing that now must be so fulfilling, knowing that interactions with you help other women not or come through that and not have to spend 40 years waiting for that to happen.
And I think I'm really blessed. I've my lived experience and my professional experience, when somebody comes to me and says my relationship's shit, I need to leave, that I can stand in my power and say, I can help you if you're ready. Otherwise, I'll just signpost you. But with a deep knowing that it took me 47 years to get to where I am. A bit like you. People look at you and go, Dani Wallace, oh my God, she's like this force. but it's been a journey, and my journey isn't over yet. You know, I've still got, you know, so much more stuff to do and so much more healing to go through. And the strangest thing will trip me up. I'll be going along tickety-boo thinking, oh, actually, look at me, and I healed. And then something will slap me in the head and go, no, bitch, sit down.
For want of a better phrase, the word journey is often bandied around. Oh, it's a journey, but it is a journey, and it doesn't stop until you're buried. You know, so to think that, and again, kind of going back to your 8 weeks, that it isn't that healing doesn't stop. It's just, that's just a one particular layer at one particular time. And if you imagine every second of every day is a layer, and you've experienced, like, by the time you get to, I don't know, late 30s for me, and however old you are, like, there are quite a few layers. So
massive onion, isn't it? You know?
So understanding that, like you say, there will be times when you get sideswiped. Even sort of me speaking before you came on this morning about the last 4 weeks being a bit, what do I do now? I've had this massive launch and there's this great success. Everything that I've wanted to happen with the business is happening with the business. It's there. Like, what do I do now? I was talking to my team last night about why do I feel like this? And Danielle from Pretty Practical, my ops manager, she was like, you're not scared of anything, and you don't know what it's like to not be scared of anything. I was like, fuck.
That's an insight and a half.
Because that was like, there was fear around getting the house, there's fear around paying VAT bills, corporation tax bills, getting everybody paid. And, you know, even if it's just for a short while until we do another launch, everybody's paid, I've nothing to worry about. And I again, like that kind of John Travolta feeling, like, what do we do now? It's because I'm not scared, and I can't remember the last time that I wasn't scared of something. I'm like,
scared is often our default setting, isn't it? You know, when we especially with trauma, you know, scared is often, we don't, like, as we know, like, you know, fight, flight, fear, or fawn. And mine, actually, I fought for years. I've learned now I don't have to fight. I don't fight doesn't have to be my default setting. I was a freezer for a long time. Then I sort of moved through it and fought for everything. And what I've realized now is that I don't, which is perhaps why I haven't done very much work in the last sort of 6 months with women that need fighting for. And I went into working for Women's Aid because I was a fighter. I was a bloody good IDFA. I was the one that would be standing up at police meetings saying, sort your shit out, it's wrong. I'm quieter now. I don't need to do that. I can do it with curiosity and other means. I'm actually a lot more powerful for that. But again, I've had to learn that. It's come to me that actually, you know, you can just be calm. You don't have to fight. There's times I do need to fight, but I don't choose.
Sometimes it's fun to fight. Sometimes it's fun.
It's fun. You know, part of that. Do you know what? The admissions officer was giving me grief this week because Grace has only been in school a few hours. Well, when do you think she'll be back? I need proof. Well, take me to court. I haven't got time for you and your shit. Shut up. You know, serve me with a letter and then we'll chat. But it's a much quieter sort of, I don't need to bite your head off and
it's more of a strength than it is in anything else now. Instead of sort of a forward motion, it's more of a it's standing, isn't solid. It's like when we hear the term, and honestly, it does my head, is standing in your power. Like, what even does that fucking mean? But it does. Like, you viscerally, you plant your feet on the floor and you go, do you know what? I'm an immovable object here in this particular situation. I've done enough flexing. I've done enough forward motion. Actually, here's good. I know my stuff and I know where I'm at. And especially where your daughter's concerned, like, you have to become almost like an immovable object because there's nobody that knows your daughter better than you. And you'll have experienced this being on the inside of things like Mareks and things like that. The authorities or the powers that be, or the white coats or the suits or whoever it is that you're dealing with, the people with the clipboards are the people who are experts in their particular field, but they're not experts in your particular field, or indeed, in this case, your daughter. So all of your fights, I guess, Dani, have led you to now, haven't they? They've led you to this like quiet strength instead of this sort of forward motion fighting on behalf of. It's almost like training for you are now like the Rocky Balboa for your daughter and this horrific illness. And I'm just like, absolutely. What a force of nature to have in your corner. It's just absolutely, you are phenomenal. And I'm so glad that you're in my life and in this community because you're just bloody amazing. So Dani, how do we find out more about the book? What's your book called? How do we get hold of that? Those.
So the book is called It's No Secret, because for me, sexual abuse is never a secret. The more we collude, the more we keep it a secret, the more we collude. So it's No Secret, Thriving After Surviving, because some people hate the word survivor. A survivor for me is just about my experience.
Yeah.
I don't particularly call myself a survivor now. I call myself a thriver. So It's No Secret, Thriving After Surviving, and it's on Amazon. It's on Kindle and on paperback. We did the cover last year. I published it through the lovely Authors & Co. with Abby Horn and Jo Gilbert. I've just seen her on here. She was the first person to send me a review that went, "Fuck, you can write." And I'd always written. And I was like, oh my God, validation that I'm not putting these words together and I can actually write. Because I started writing another book about our experiences with eating disorder. And that was huge, because I just feel this journey, unless you've been on it, there will be so many people out there who sadly will find themselves on this journey at some point, maybe with a friend or a family member. So I feel like it's important to share.
I think the sad truth is, Dani, that now more so than ever, particularly after the 12-15 months that we've just had, that our kids are going to be seeking more ways of control. And I think that, paired with a very, very hectic and a heavily messaged social media around size and looks, I think that it's going to be a very, very necessary tool for many parents.
Services are drowning. Sadly. My daughter isn't crisis enough to get intervention at the minute. She's got to be, sort of 46 kilos, and she has atypical anorexia. So because we caught it quickly, she'd only dropped about probably 4 kilos, which is a lot when you're a stick.
It's a lot when you're small.
She's not crisis enough. So last week I was in fight mode. I emailed the MP and I emailed the TV stations and the newspapers, and strangely now we're on a waiting list. But again, it irks me that I had to even do that.
You've got to fight that hard. What if you don't know the system? What if if you are brand new to this, even considering it? What if you think that you've brought your kids up beautifully with no access to any kind of chaos or trauma, and all of a sudden they find themselves in this position? It is indiscriminate.
Completely. Yeah, it's a bit like domestic abuse, isn't it? There is no. It's exactly the same. It's classless. It's raceless. It happens to anybody. And what's really scary is that on the group I'm on, which is called Eating Disorder UK on Facebook, which has been a lifeline for me, there are parents on there with kids as young as 9, maybe 10, with full blown anorexia, and their children are saying, Grace said to me, the pictures on Instagram, Mum, that they're saying, I should be skinnier. The kids are size 4. The role modeling here is so wrong. So I found myself on Saturday dancing around in a bikini on the beach. Look at me, love me. I didn't feel entirely comfortable. I was really white, but just because I'm her role model at the minute, there I was, shaking my cellulite ass on the beach. Because I'm desperate to say to her, we are all different. This is what we're given, and we just have to, get with it.
So she's forcing you to own yourself even more. Like that's, and we, it's honestly, we could talk all day around the house of all of these things and all the things that we learn. I think fascinating isn't the right word, because fascinating makes me feel like I'm sat here with the popcorn out, and it isn't that. I'm in awe. I'm in absolute awe of how you. How you do. I just think you're incredible, Dani. How do we connect with you, or how do we find out more about your work?
So I've got a website, which is danianddani.co.uk, and I'm on Facebook under Dani Downey. You can seek me out on there, as long as you're not some random man telling me, "Hey, gorgeous, you must have fallen to the earth with a bump because you're an angel." Then I'll connect with you. You get those. It just drives me insane.
You are so. Hi, dear.
Hi dear,
Hi dear.
Could you marry me? Yeah. And then there's the dick pics. Well, please, can we not go there? Can we not? Have you seen my husband?
daren't say this out loud. Never had one. Never had one. Please don't. Don't anybody send me one. It will immediately be deleted. But I've never, and I'm very happy about that. Like I just don't attract it to me. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
No,
but I am very pleased. No, thank you.
No, I just know it's every kind of wrong.
No one's ever made a buying decision based on that kind of approach, have they?
No, and it's only men. I think I don't get boob pictures and stuff from women who fancy me. I just,
I know what I'll do. This will help me forge a great relationship with this person.
Jo Gilbert obviously gets lots because she says you're not missing much. I want to know how many you get a day, Jo.
Oh God, I don't look at my inbox now because I've said it out loud. So
it's that spam one you have to go to, isn't it? The message request one. That's where all my weird and wonderful ones come in.
Just what makes these people tick? I have no idea. But Dani, if you could do us a favour on the Queen Bee Dani page on Facebook on this particular live, if you could pop your links on there, and we'll and if any of you want too many, Jo Gilbert saying, I don't know if I should be like, should I be offended? Like, or should I?
You watch. I reckon you'll go in now into your spam box and there'll be hundreds.
God, I don't. Shall I do it now? Hold your breath,
Yeah,
you lot. Lord.
Do it.
Right, I'm going in. Anything can happen here. Right.
I'm excited
requests. For you. Nothing. Hi, dear. Hello, beautiful. How are you doing? Hello, Queen. Hey, Dani. How are you? Hello, dear. No. Yes.
No.
I don't know. I feel like I'm playing Russian roulette with dick pics now.
It's a new moon tonight. You need to be careful what you manifest.
Oh God, none of that, please, dear Lord, none of that.
No.
Dani,
I'll pop that all underneath.
So much. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. I could talk to you for hours. I am in awe.
You're coming to Glastonbury, aren't you? We're going to I think I should probably come, depending on the. Would you want to take Glastonbury?
Now you're asking me. Hang on 1 second.
It's going to be music.
Who knows? I bet you.
Stuff.
Do you know what? I bet you one of you lot will probably get to the date before I do. Where is it? Packages. Where's the Summer Swarm? I don't know what date it is off the top of my head.
I'll look it up, Dani. It's fine. Don't worry.
It's the 7th. It's the 7th of July.
No, I'm free. We're not on holiday then. If anybody ever has a holiday ever again because of COVID, but but you're coming down this way, so I shall come to Glastonbury to come and hang out for the day.
I love it. I love it. Wow. I'm not saying that out loud. Amy Blaney. I'm not saying it out loud. You'll get me took off air.
Oh my God. I once had one that was a moving picture, and I reposted it onto his timeline and said, "Look at what this disgusting human being has sent me." And he blocked me. Didn't like me doing that.
Oh, can you imagine? Yeah. You think he'd be so proud.
Yeah, he didn't expect that. I love him. But thank you, Dani, for having me. I love watching where you are. Love watching what you do and what you stand for. Thank you.
You are so welcome, and thanks for sharing your story as well. It's so inspirational for so many, and bloody hell, you're amazing, and I love you, and I'll speak to you very soon. Dani, everybody, what a show this morning. What a show. I hope you're all okay. If you need a cuddle after that, I know we talked about a lot of things there, and we will be putting a trigger warning up at the top end of the show as well, just to make sure that you guys are super protected. I love you very much. If you are experiencing anything like domestic abuse, I will put or indeed eating disorders, sexual abuse, anything like that, or have experienced it in the past, we're going to put the links to some helplines on the show as well, just in case you need to reach out to anybody, and please do. So huge love to you all. I will see you all bright and breezy in the morning for more Showing Up, Wising Up and Rising Up. In the meantime, do me a favour, will you? Go to the Queen Bee Dani on Instagram and go and give us a cheeky follow. I think we're 140 away from 4,000 followers on there. So it'd be brilliant if by the end of next week we can get that to 4,000 followers. A little 4K party going on. Operation Swipe Up is still going. It's going slow, but we're going to have our social media manager in situ in the not too distant future. So fingers crossed, it will be flying up there so we can get that swipe up, so I can share as many of our glorious guests with as many of you guys as possible, hopefully in the not too distant future. Have an incredible day. Go and rip it up. I will see you tomorrow at 9:30 for more Showing Up, Rising Up and Rising Up. Tra.